Dun 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 dun. Hey everybody, how you doing? This is TPIM SR Live. I am your host, True Powers Mine. Look, today we are going to be talking about probably one of the most uncomfortable topics yet. It's very disturbing. The images that will probably be evoked in your mind's eye, but I hope that you can endure, brothers and sisters, until the bitter end. You know the old story of the tortoise and the hare. I know all of you are aware of this old nursery rhyme or children's story, but it represents quite literally what is happening to this nation. We were running a race against all these old tortoises, regimes, and kingdoms, trying to escape them. We got so far ahead, we lulled ourselves to sleep with our trinkets and baubles and our debt. And as we're sitting there on the side of the road, basically having wet dreams, we're number one. We're number one. The rest of the world is slowly creeping past us, slowly obtaining the technology, Brother Marty, Brother Allen. Good morning, Brother Berg. Good morning to all three of you. Welcome to the show. And as we go down this rabbit hole, quite literally, it's going to end with the dissolvement of the United States and the birth of the true liberal world order. I know a lot of you guys don't want to accept that. Oh, true. We've been hearing this conspiracy shit for ever since the 50s. When is the nuclear war coming? Blah, 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 etc., etc. And let me tell you guys straight up, the reason why a lot of that has not come to pass because we're dealing with psychic powers and energies. Brother David, welcome to the show. So as soon as the plan is acknowledged and spoken on, the things that were propped up melts away and it crumbles and it doesn't come to pass. So it's not a situation where the person gave you inaccurate information. It's a situation where the information actually manifested itself into a victory. That's the power of words. And that's why it's so highly regulated nowadays. Think about this, brothers and sisters. The reason why so many immigrants are still trying to get into America or the United States of America is because from whatever situation they're coming from, even being homeless on the streets of Miami, homeless on the streets of New York, homeless on the streets of LA, which, by the way, will soon be a crime, is more acceptable than living underneath the regime of a drug lord or a CIA asset or some other colonial propped up madman leader. See, none are free unless all are free, kiddos. And right now, I'm here to tell you, there's a bunch of people who are not free as we speak right now. When we look at what the notion of this nation is supposed to be freedom, that means that if you don't want to stand up and pledge allegiance, you don't have to. That's your right. You're free. That's your privilege. That's a free person. You don't have to collectively indulge in these traditional rallying issues. But we don't live in a free nation, do we? Now, I mean, those of us who are melanated already know this. This is for our non-melanated brothers and sisters to comprehend and understand it and jump along the unity bandwagon. Because I am not trying for a change of hats, y'all. That's not what it's about. Because a change of hats only begets a cycle of stagnation and no progress. I think it's time for us to let those who want to remain segregated, let those who want to remain so-called pure or whatever, go on and do their thing. But the moment anybody, including myself, starts to advocate you have to either do it our way or else, that's when we have the problem. That's the change of the hats that I'm often talking about. Even this situation here, it's just a change of the hat. It's not about freedom. It's not about economics per se. It's about those who will power and have power, maintaining power, and totally controlling the situation. Totally. Well, you know what? I don't even have to speak on it. I can pull this up for you guys, and you will know that it's not true power because it's not. This is coming from this source here. Hold on, let me increase the magnification of the chat room here. Morning. Good morning. Infinite love. And Kevin, welcome back to the show, brother. Peace and power. Now, hold on. By the way, I haven't looked at the news yet today, so. Anonymous author warns portraying presidency on the brink. He's stumbling, slurring, getting confused, easily irritated. Oh my gosh, and shot at the commander-in-chief. Now, think what you will. As long as, and listen to this correctly, as long as you're held in bondage under this present system, then this is what you're going to get. Now, if you want somebody to change something or someone to fire up the masses, why are you going to get an old feller, someone who's set in their ways, who's going to perpetrate a fraud and continue the world that they envision, instead of someone young with new ideals and maybe even a new spirit that can actually lead or guide you to a different zone? See, the reason why you have situations. Well, let's take the state of Missouri, the Civil War conflict. Mississippi was the richest state in the Union. Now, not so much. Hold on. Did I just cut off? I'm still here. I just got a message saying something about trying to reconnect. Sister Kathy, welcome to the show. Peace and power. See, my whole point is this. If you do not want to change, keep on holding true to your traditions. Keep on holding true to your folk ways and all that. And maybe that will comfort you, and hopefully that will comfort you, and at least you'll get some sort of benefit. But if you recognize that we're basically in a state of, let's say, confusion or disarray at least, then the only way to change that is by changing your thought process. Why is this? Hold on, I want you all to see this. This stuff is crazy. I'm getting all kinds of pop-ups on my computer all suddenly. Okay, but now it's not going to do it. Okay, cool. But this is what I'm trying to get. I'm trying to nail this point home. Is that in the United States, we have an opportunity and the space to create the United States that all can be proud of and all can want to uplift it and strengthen it. It should be self-evident. The truth is always self-evident. I don't have to say, hey, look, there's light ball in the sky. You already know this is the sun. It's self-evident. It gives light. Well, the world is in darkness, and the world needs light as well. Light of liberation, light of rights, light of privilege. And we all had to come to the realization that there's forces outside of us that are seeking using force, using economic persuasion, using spiritual deception to ensure that the power remains unchanged. In that way, they're trying to be a temporary perversion of God. How Most High is constant and true, they want to be constant and true in this organizational structure, whether it be a kingdom, whether it be an empire, whether it be a church, whether it be a temple, whatever it is, it's all about longevity and it not changing. But that's impossible on a world that's in perpetual motion. That's why when you look at this thing abstractly, you put on your Gestalt glasses that was provided to you by whatever society you was unfortunately enough to be born into, you're going to see small bits of the bigger picture. And with your indoctrination in tow, you're going to piece together your own reality, where it's reality that limits you, oppresses you, or a reality that fulfills you and opens up the door for opportunity. It all begins in your mind. That's why Kamala Harris, or Camilla, as some would call her, was all about locking up parents that didn't send their children to them government schools in a timely fashion. Every law, if you analyze it and look at it, it has two components. One of two. One, it's designed to ensure that the poor people stay in their place. Or two, it's designed to ensure that the poor people in their place are being properly indoctrinated. Every law in America, United States, is based upon those two principles. Now, they're going to sell you a bill of goods as for the public dignity and peace. But when you're writing the book on what is dignity and what is peace, then you're writing, in essence, the potential or the limits set upon the lower tier of society. Well, a lot of impoverished people, Brother Gregory, Brother Knowledge, welcome to the show, peace and power. Brother James, welcome to the show, peace and power. When you look at the family structure as it is now, you have a mother, you have children. You have a father, you have children. You have them both, and you have a family unit and children, of course, or even just a mother and father. That's a family of two. But nowadays, Thornton, welcome to the show. We have a situation where you have the government and mom, the government and dad, the government, mom and dad, or just the government. Figure that one out. For examples, that just created a square, which is in essence a two-dimensional representation of a 3D cell. And that's where they want you at. They want to keep you in the cell. They want to keep you in the system. They want to keep you in bondage. Hold on. There was a story I saw the other day. This is one bad thing about this site here. They always change stories. But let me get this into frame so you all can read. Top secret government center admits crippling Virginians' garage door openers. As we go more and more to the smart house, more and more into the smart world, more and more into AI-driven components that we have to interact with on a day-to-day basis, we're setting ourselves up for the big extinction. Remember, I told you before, and others greater than myself apparently have said the same thing. There's nothing new on this earth. Quite literally, nothing is new. Only to you, the uninitiated, perhaps. We have fought robots before, and we won. That's why we're here today. We have fought aliens before, and we won. That's why we're here today. And we also fought hate and injustice. But that battle continues. It's a human internal self hate mechanism. I guess one of the residues to ensure that those outside of this biosphere can maintain their power. Because if humanity ever united, those in the heaven would truly shit their pants if they're capable of shitting. Some apparent racists aren't. I tell you what, gal, there's a lot of information out here now that people were privy to, say back in the 70s or 50s or 40s. I mean, on a vast level, the world we would be living in truly would have been flying cars, truly would have been like the Jetsons, but a 3D real version without spacely sprockets, hopefully. Because the future of humanity, there will be no corporations. There will be no tycoons. There'll be no entrepreneurs. There will only be a handful of citadels with brutally oppressive regimes, with inbred overseers claiming to be genetically superior due to technological advances. And there will only be mindless automatons, field bosses, supervisors, middle and lower tier management. It's going to be a world of automation, a world without empathy and love. The true reason why the birth rate is dropping so rapidly is because another phenomenon, and it begins with information once again. When you realize that everything in you, everything about you, friend, is a choice that you made. You chose to be born. You chose to choose that body, and you chose basically the life that you entered into. Now, all the things that has happened to you, yeah, some of it was outside of your choice. But here's the kicker. If you choose oppression, if you choose looking at the world through those particular gestalt lenses, then that will be your reality. But if you take those fucking glasses off your face and you crush them on the ground and you merely open up your eyelids and see the world through your own eyes for a change, you might just see a way to a brighter and better future for not only yourself, but your descendants as well. Now, let me let me glance through here real quick, and then we're gonna get a guest on the line. I'm gonna call up somebody. I don't know exactly who, but we're gonna get a guest. Blackout fires, high gas prices. Who wants to live in California today? Self-evident, is it not? It's self-evident the People's Republic of China, I mean California, is not really the place we want to be. If you was to strike gold, whether it be black gold or not in Tennessee, you damn sure don't want to pack up your family and move them out to California. Eh? What's this about? What is this on the boot? Okay, 45 rate, blah blah blah. Sessions inside. Okay. Jeff Sessions needs to sit his old ass down somewhere, shit his pants, and take his Geritol. Maybe a Viagra on the weekend. That's all he needs to do. He's so far out of the damn game. This is what I'm saying. You guys keep on electing these old motherfuckers who already lived their fucking lives. They don't give a fuck. They just want to ensure that their little grandbabies have the bullshit that they had. Make sure that's a little too far over now. That should be right there. All right. Now, smartphones increase the stress, shorten lives. Well, that's the game plan. I already told you everything in your smartphone, from the screen to the microphone to the camera, was all created by military technology. It's a weapon system. Your cell phone, just like the TV before it, was a weapon system and it's deployed on you. So here's the kicker. If the government protects you from the bad guys, then who protects you from the bad guys in the government? If the government protects you, and we all, and then don't hit me with, oh, the government's self-correcting. We all know about the blue shield with the cops. So if you have the blue shields with the cops, you probably have the silver spoon with the Senate. You probably have the golden spoon with the presidency. You probably have the platinum butt plug with the Supreme Court. You want to give up your freedom of will and freedom to choose to people who you so-called elect to govern you. But if you are not correct enough to govern yourself, how the hell are you correct enough to elect someone to govern for you? Thus, we see why we're in the situation we're in. There was a profound reason why this country was founded, with only a certain elect people had an opportunity to participate in the government process on both high or low levels. The high level is administration, and the low level is voting the administrators into office. Once again, if you're incapable of governing yourself, what makes you capable? Hold on, let me take this phone call real quick. Hello? Oh, God. Why do we have all the robocalls during election year or the beginning? I thought that might have been a guess. You know, sometimes it works that way. Yeah, I know that's terribly unprofessional, but by God, this is an unprofessional operation. This is not my profession. This is my passion. I elect to do this because I have love for humanity. I have love for you, and I want to see you all united and strong, so you can fend off the future challenges. Because I was about to tell you about the low birth rate. The reason why once again, this is all about choice. If you have such a horrible experience, then when it's time to reincarnate, you can literally choose not to come back. Thus, in the 3D world, it would manifest in so-called low birth rates, and the system would have to compensate. Oh, there's chemical, environmental, blah, blah, blah. No, what it is, people understand this place is hemmed up. Look, those of you who are fucking gamers out here, you'll understand me. Let's say you're playing an MMORPG, all right? But you come into the game in latency, meaning after all the big players built up their castles or built up their little empires, and you start off with, a couple of dollars, maybe a gem or two, but you've really quite rapidly realized, oh shit, I'm never going to be the top dog on this platform because it's already taken. Well, the same thing's true with so-called reality. You're born into a latent game, yeah. There's people who are in clans or guilds or alliances. We call them secret societies, fraternities, in government. And they have the power. You're just quite literally a peasant, or a pawn. Well, that truly being internalized once you die, then you're gonna choose not to come back to this fucking whack ass game. It's already hemmed up. Let these motherfuckers. You're gonna go to where there's a new opportunity. Take what you learned from here. Try to go to a different zone, a different maybe a map that's opened up, that's brand new with fresh resources, and you're gonna try to dominate that. But I'm telling you, it's just a change of the hat yet again. If you do not fundamentally change the way we go about this thing, because all you're gonna do in the next reincarnation is build up a fucking oppressive regimes that you can give to your little fucking minions that follow you from life to life to life to life to life. And they're called children. We're going to talk about some deep stuff today, y'all. I want this to be a truly historic show that whether you're listening to it in 2019 or if you have the capabilities in 2029 to listen to this program, you will still draw something out of it, something profound, something truthful, something useful. Sister Alexandria, welcome to the show. Peace and power. Because a lot of us have been given just enough to make us feel we're a little better off than that guy, even though we still behave like this. You see, Harvard hosts Anal Sex 101, Oral Sex 101, and Fat Phobia workshops. What is Harvard trying to do? It's trying to get you fucking hot chicks cool with, or hot dudes cool with fucking fat fucks, and it's trying to get more anal and oral cancer spread amongst the children or the young people or whoever takes these particular courses. If you have to educate yourself on a very natural process, and sex, kids, honestly, for those who haven't experienced it yet, obviously you're, oh my God, it's gonna blah, 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 blah. Whatever. That's a part of that primitive mind of yours putting so much emphasis on the attachment and bond, because sex is an attachment. Quite literally, when you're fucking someone, you're attached to them, whether it be for 15 or an hour, 15 minutes to an hour, whatever. You're attached to this individual, this woman, this dude, if you're a chick. Well, if you do not experience this, then all you have are all these secondhand stories or accounts of what this beautiful moment is supposed to be about. Now, I don't want to draw up rules and regulations, because there will become a time where men and women will not be married. There will come a time when you actually have a choice. You can have a baby the old-fashioned way, or you can have a baby out of the bag. Once they break, well, which they already have actually, the process to clone an individual, you would potentially legally be able to clone yourself, raise that clone like Boba Fett's dad did, and go on about your business. That's the ultimate red pill plan, ain't it? You don't have to worry about no chick, or if you're a chick, you don't have to worry about no dude, and you still get the benefit of having someone wipe your ass when you get old. But see how that's all based upon and predicated upon fear? Predicated upon, oh my God, when I get too old, I won't be able to lift my own hand to wipe my face off. I need someone to do it. And you see how oppressive that is for the person who's obligated to do that merely because you felt it necessary to bring them or provide a way for them to enter into this realm, this latent game that the shit's already stacked up against them. In fact, when the children really wake up and when the children really see the fraud that has been perpetrated upon all of us, you think they're going to uplift your name. I'm telling you, they're going to spit upon your name. They're going to spit upon your memory. The danger of ancestor worshiping is that when you realize perhaps your ancestors weren't about shit, it's hard to stomach that. Because if they're not about shit, then you're not about shit. And how do you know if you're about shit or not? Are you trying to change anything? Or are you merely trying to keep it going? Because you're merely trying to keep this bullshit going. I'm telling you, you ain't about shit. In fact, this little motherfucker right there probably got some more brains than you. And if you're trying to change shit going this way, you're worse than this motherfucker. The only victory that there is, has been, will ever be, is the victory where you take your enemy and you turn them into your brother or sister or transgender, whatever the fuck. Have you guys ever met an individual who has like a special bond with animals? I mean, seriously, I know this guy. This motherfucker could walk out into the woods and see a bobcat, and the motherfucker would come up and be his best buddy. Why is that? Because even myself, with my particular message is still falling short and it still could be misinterpreted into some sort of warped ideal that humanity only fuck everything else. And that's wrong as well. The only thing you need to dominate is the self. Allow everything else to be free. Dominate yourself. Have self-control. Have restraint. Have a plan. And stick to it. But nope, that's not good enough for many people. Most of us want to what? Dominate others. And when in reality, most of us lack the necessary traits to dominate oneself. That's why you have a leader that can grab them by the pussy. That's why you have federally appointed lifetime term judges that's going to be around for the next 30 to 40 years, dragging us back to a primitive state. Now, if you're a wealthy or middle class white fella, this is you're all well. I get more privileges, and then all the pretty poor fucking chicks I can fuck them if I want, or all the handsome young poor men I can fuck if I want because I got all the money and all the opportunity. Blah blah blah. This is where we're at, Sister Janice. This is where we're at. Quite literally. A situation that could be changed if there was enough of us that would let go of the dogmatic bullshit. If there was enough of us to truly recognize this life as a new opportunity to change the game. But there's too many people in power, too many goons ready to kill. There's people out there that will straight up kill a bologna sandwich if their master says kill the damn sandwich. They'll cut the motherfucker up. Think it's a joke, but it's not. It's quite real. You're in a MMO RPG in latency. The castles are already level fucking 100, whatever, and you're only a level 6. Some of you might be rocking a level 15. But whenever you catch the eyes of the ones who truly have the power, you're going to see and understand what power is truly about. And when this world becomes void of life, and I'm talking about bipedal human life, humanoid life, there's always going to be bacterium. There's always going to be viruses. There's always going to be little critters and this and that. Big critters as well. But I'm telling you guys, Eternity is a bitch. It's boring as fuck. And as someone told me, and I sincerely believe she's right, if you only knew how boring, or if you only could remember how boring the state was prior to showing up on Earth, even the shittiest life is more exciting than that state. And that's what death is. Peace is it's just that. Peace. It's boring. It's uneventful. The rock is going to be a rock the same shape now and forever. The water's going to be wet. Fire's going to be hot. The wind is going to either be cool or warm, depending on the season. And I think what many of us cannot accept, and this sucks, and I'm going to say it, man. Thank you, Most Five. Most of you are unwilling to accept the subordinate possession in which you are birthed into reality and the cosmos. Commonly referred to, some of you have delusion of self-grandeur. All of us are subordinates to a higher power, whether you want to accept this fact or not. Now, you can rebel. Absolutely. That's your so-called freedom of will. But when your ass gets crushed, like an ant that rebels in your kitchen, normally you shouldn't see an ant or nothing in your kitchen, but an ant is rebellious. No, I'm going to go up in that fucking kitchen. I don't give a fuck. And when that motherfucker gets crushed by your foot, are there any tears? Does anyone mourn that? Even the ants are like, well, he was wrong. Or in case of ants, truly, she was wrong because majority of ants are females. This is quite literally the environment in which you were spawned in. I should call Mark. But, so early there. Heaven knows. So I'm going to call up Judge. I'm going to see if he can come on and talk to us for a moment about some things that's been going on. Let me turn up the microphone. 10 o'clock. Not too terribly late. Do. Yeah, good morning, Judge. This is Patrick from the show. Just wondering if you had a couple of moments to speak.
Go ahead.
Awesome. I just read a story or saw a story about Jeff Sessions. He's back in the, I guess the Alabama government situation. How important is it for us to realize that people like Jeff Sessions or the 65 plus federal judges that the Trump administration has appointed, just how concerned should we be about them potentially dragging us back to, older days?
You actually don't. Let me tell you what is going on from my perspective as somebody that's been very deep in the constitutional law for a long time. And the reason I'm in constitutional law, even before I got in law school, when I wasn't interested in being a lawyer, is because it impacts the relationship between the citizen and the government. And that's probably the most important thing that we have to deal with. Yeah. All right. Now, this question that we have today on the issue of Trump's appointment to judges has gotten kind of skewed, and to understand it in perspective, you have to back up, and you might see it's a 180-degree reversal off of what usually has happened. Typically, the right wing for most of this country's history has been in favor of repressing or suppressing the Bill of Rights because they are authoritarian, okay?
Right.
What has happened in the last few years is that the role has reversed and the far left has become almost Nazi-like in their effort to push political correctness. They want to restrict the First Amendment so you don't have free speech if it makes somebody uncomfortable.
Yes.
They want to get rid of the Second Amendment, which actually is in there, so that the citizenry can be and balance with authoritative government. They want to suppress the Fourth and Fifth Amendments because they say that prevents men from being prosecuted properly and vigorously for offending women, and a few other things in there. So the left is pushing for suppression of the Bill of Rights like the right used to. And now the right is in the position of having to defend those rights that the left used to defend because the left is now trying to suppress them.
Yes.
So when you look at Trump and his appointments, we have a peculiar situation where outside of things like abortion, perhaps, you have the far right being the protectors of the Bill of Rights. And I'm worried because they aren't used to that role, but I am more worried about the left coming up with this suppression of the Bill of Rights that they seem to be pushing. For example, New York, the state, California, the state, it's gotten so crazy. You can call someone the N-word in California and you might get busted in your jaw.
Yep.
But it's nothing illegal. But if you call somebody the FAG word, then that's 30 days suspended, $2,500 fine, and 250 hours of community service and 1129 probation.
Wow.
You see, that's what's going on in this country. And leftist judges are supporting that kind of nonsense. So I'm looking at a thing that is startling me. I've been just going through decisions by some of Obama's few appointments, and they look like something out of 1930-ish Nazi Germany.
Yes.
And then I look at some of the stuff, like, for example, Gorsuch. I went through some of his things, and I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, to notice how much he is standing up for individual rights versus oppressive government, which is like, whoa, that's not supposed to happen.
Right.
So the left was more worried about an allegation from what I thought was a sick young puppy of a female who was a little bit drunk and has got a skewed recollection of events when everybody was 40 years younger. Then they were about the fact that this man upheld individual rights every time he got a chance as a judge.
Right.
You know, so I'm looking at that like, whoa, what's going on? You know, you listen to these people talk about him and he's a demon. So I always decided to go look. Now, on the other hand, Scalia, the late Anthony Scalia, that was a right-wing darling. But I knew long ago that, I mean, some of the stuff he did was just absolutely crank nonsense, ridiculous. And he did nothing for the state of the law because it was so far out and very often so irrelevant to what was in front of him that it didn't set a precedent one way or the other. It was useless. But you see, that's what I always associated from the far right. But nowadays, I'm finding that Trump's appointments actually are doing stuff in their decisions that you used to expect from the far left. And the far left is doing stuff that I think is very dangerous. So I don't think we've got all that much to worry about from Trump's appointments. I do have a feeling that for the ordinary person, it's going to actually be better because Trump himself has run afoul of people who, sitting on the bench, have done some stuff that have aggravated the hell out of him. And rather than just going with the flow, he's trying to push it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing because too many of the presidents we've had that have appointed judges have never been the defendant in an action.
Right.
And I have one more slight digression, but it's on point. If you look at cops who are detectives or sergeants or who have been around for a long time and been promoted a time or two, you know who they hang out and drink whiskey with?
Who?
They hang out with defense lawyers, not the prosecutors. It's the rookies that won't have anything to do with defense lawyers, because if you've ever been through this system and been jacked up and accused of something, like senior cops have all been when somebody's complained, and i.e. internal affairs has been on their behind, they hang out with defense lawyers. And I've noticed a high percentage of cops that marry public defenders, you know, which is interesting when you think about it, until you say, you know what? They've been around and they've been attacked, and they know why a person should be presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
I have some friends that are detectives, and like one of them, we were out, you know, it's been a few years back, we were out drinking, and he said, you know what, Joe, he said, I used to, when I first got off in the rookie, I used to hate defense lawyers. Now I like them. He said, because sometimes I got the equivalent of a bad hair day. And when I get through charging somebody and say, should I really have done that? And then I said, well, if he gets a good lawyer, he'll test it. And if something comes up screwed up, I'll be glad if he gets off, because I'm not really sure about this one.
Wow.
So I want somebody to vigorously test it so I can sleep well at night, knowing that I aggressively did my job, but there's somebody there to make sure I didn't mess up.
Right. A check.
I said, when did you get that? He said, well, you know what? You read me the first time. Remember, I said, yeah, that's been years ago when you were damn near a rookie. They, you know, the white patrolman wanted to jack you up because you were trying to do that community relationship stuff, talk to these young black boys out there on the street and get their heads squared away. He said, yeah. He said, so I remember what it felt like to be jacked up. And see, that's happening on the right now.
Right.
They're worried about freedom of speech. You go on Twitter, and Twitter will let these clowns on the far left talk all kinds of crazy nonsense. But they suspended somebody permanently because he said these pedophiles should, where the law permits, be chemically castrated. So for that, and that happens to be the actual law in a number of states, he got permanently banned. You see where that goes?
Yeah.
And why I think this thing about worrying about what Trump's appointing to the bench is not necessarily merited the way it is pushed, because the alternative is putting some people in it which say that's okay because it protects people's feelings.
Right.
Well, you know, and when I grew up, we used to entertain ourselves during recess. When lunch, you know, was too hot to play ball, we'd run the dozen. Hey, man, I don't want to say nothing, man, but your mama, man, you know, like, hey, your mama's so big, man, she can't even get in a bathtub with no more than 2 drops of water, man. That's why she stinks so much, man. She can't wash off, you know.
Or even playing that little game, tag your it. You know, we can't do these, I guess, mock war exercises to keep us fit and ready for any type of contingency, because we're being set up, Judge. The United States is being set up as a big fat pussy waiting to get fucked.
Well, yeah. Look at what I was reading something on Twitter. There was a video where a mother came in and the child was really acting out in school, so she snatched him by the back of the collar, lifted him up, pulled her belt off, and wore that behind out. And these people were saying, "Oh my God, she should be arrested for embarrassing him in front of his friends, or she should never have done." He was just expressing himself. I'm going, what the hell? My mother, I can remember one time when my mother came down, she was furious. She wore me out in front of everybody all the way to the car. And as soon as I got home, my neighbor jumped me. You know, the neighbors jumped, 2 neighbors jumped me, and my father got home and wore my behind out.
Wow.
And I never was going to do that again, you know,
right.
the rest of my life. And I look at how my generation, babe, we had our wrong, but we didn't have that kind of thing going wrong.
Right.
And then I look at what they're doing now, and I'm looking at this tendency to try to appoint judges who go along with that, you know, not what we used to do, but oh my God, this is so horrible.
The Dr. Spock mentality. Oh, you have to talk to
oh
your
God,
child.
I hate that fool.
You know, he
damn.
Well, you're seeing the repercussion of his thoughts being soaked up by political leaders. No, you got to talk to little Jimmy Judge. You got to hold his hand and tell him it's okay to wear that dress. You got to do it. No.
Oh,
no.
Yeah. You don't do that. And see, you know, one thing, I was getting taped on a documentary about what actually happened with Ray and King. Did Ray kill MLK yesterday? All right. So it came up about this thing not Ray, but King and Spock were doing in the year before he died. All right.
Okay.
Or got killed. And I commented, I said, you know what? I detested that. And I thought, frankly, at the time it was contributing to his irrelevancy, because you get this guy that gets this relativistic thing in about child rearing that is now so pervasive and so ineffectual and such a grave failure. You know, you've got 250,000 years of modern humans raised the same way, and now some clown comes along to talk to a generation of parents who didn't have a clue because they wanted to do better than their parents did with them, which wasn't really bad what got done with them. And they just flocked to it, like always show, never punish, you know, always show unconditional love, you know, no matter what the child does. No, sometimes you come down on somebody for acting a fool, so they get a disincentive to do it again later in life.
Yes.
So what I'm looking at in the question you asked me about, should we be worried about the judges that Trump is appointing? I would say no, because they're more likely now with this paradigm shift to be the ones that uphold individual rights versus the left wing that would suppress them in favor of certain people's rights, if you get what I'm saying.
I totally understand. And you know, getting back to the Twitter and the Facebook, you know, how they can ban people and lock people up. How come we don't have a United States Postal Facebook site to where you can post your pictures or send messages to fellow citizens? You know, you have to have let's say a social security number to access the site. How come we can't do something like that to where all voices cannot be censored?
Well, I think two things have to happen. One is something that needs to be undone. The media, if you are 45 and under, you may be too young to remember it. But at one time, they had fairness in media. So if the news presented, say, one politician's perspective, they had to allow the opponent equal time to rebut it or state his position or have a representative. The Republican Party, the Reagan administration, abolished that, and I think that rule needs to be reimposed, fairness, where you cannot use the airways for political purposes unless it is specifically designated as a political ad. All right?
Right.
Where you can't have the staff come in like CNN does or Fox does and just abuse somebody on the other side because they haven't, you know, and it's not even designated as an editorial thing. Okay, you have to undo that, and that's in the lap of the Republicans. They screwed up on that one. The next thing that we need to do is generate more legal activity that requires that places like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram be declared public utilities. See, back in the 19th century, when they started bringing in gas works and then electric power, you know, they wanted to manipulate it, you know, so it favored certain neighborhoods and everything. And because the public had become so dependent upon it, the legal rulings were no, you can't do this, and the legislative rulings were no, you can't do this. It's a public utility where everybody's got access. Don't care whether or not you don't like their political position.
Wow.
So they've already done that. And it was a leftist court that did it by accident. They wanted, remember when Trump blocked all these people that were bad mouthing him, responding to his Twitter postings?
Yes.
And they came out and said, no, you can't. This is a First Amendment right. You don't have to respond to them, but you have to let them go on there so they can exchange ideas. Well, see, we need a right-wing side judge to take that precedent and run with it and say, okay, then you can't suppress anybody because they've got a First Amendment right to express their position so long as it's not stating something that's likely to incite criminal activity.
Right. Hey.
So you can't block these people when somebody says convicted pedophiles should be chemically castrated if the law permits. That's the law. You see. So I think it might actually behoove us. And the other thing that I am very worried about is these left-wing bozos that want to disarm the country in the face of these white supremacists, the real ones, not just every generic white person.
Right. The actual ones who have
mean, some of these people are armed to the teeth. And there was a good old boy that ran one of the best gun shops in America. His name was Bert. And he died. And he was an interesting, good old boy. For his funeral, his will requested that this black preacher, who is actually a pretty good black preacher, he talks about black power, black economic power, and your duty to resist the government when they get too intrusive. This preacher, he's not a jackleg, right? He's a hunter. So by his will, he had a black man perform his funeral services. So that puts this white boy in a different kind of position than most, right?
Right.
Well, you know what he tells me one day, years ago, since I had one time represented him. So he's got a black lawyer in his past and a black preacher performs his funeral service. So you know what he told me? He said, Jesus Christ, Joe, if I was a black man, I'd buy up every case of ammunition I could, every damn gun I could afford, because some of my people, they armed to the teeth like they getting ready to start World War III and a half, and they worried about killing y'all because they think y'all gonna come slit their throats in the middle of the night.
Wow.
And some of them need their throats slit. He said, so he said, you got good sense. I said, well, it doesn't offend you that arm. He said, look here, I don't like no fools. He said, and when I see a black man coming here, it's good for business, but you know, I don't treat nobody wrong because of what they are. He said, and I see how they needs it. He said, you got to be a goddamn fool running around trying to disarm yourself in the face of the hell that's about to erupt.
Yes.
And my people don't understand why the hell things is going wrong. So they seizing on your people is the reason things are going wrong. It ain't the reason. It's that the reason is they just so damn stupid and don't pay attention to what the hell's happening.
Wow. He's speaking truth.
He said, but he's telling you the truth. And we got all these assholes running around trying to take guns away. And what the hell are you going to do? Get down on your goddamn knees and pray like it's a whole civil rights movement. But in this case, instead of somebody taking a nightstick to your head, they putting a pistol to the back of your head, and the scene looks just like these old documentaries about what the Nazis were doing at the beginning of World War II. They got the Jews down on their knees and a pistol to the back of their head, and boom, as they get shot and fall off in the slit trench.
Right. But these fools who try to have you think, Judge, they know they want you down on your knees so you can give them fellatio.
Yeah.
That's better.
They think they got knee pads on permanently built into the knees of their jeans now. So they get down on their knees. But, and I guess give head, but it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't.
They keep forgetting that the real world is out there. We've got global warming, which the right wing does not get, but there is global warming. The sea level is rising, which means a lot of land where people live is going to be underwater or not habitable. That means that due to drought and some other situation, crops are going to be really screwed up in terms of their availability. That means there's likely to be necessary warfare and stuff so people don't starve to death.
With so the victor don't starve to death.
You're going to need masculinity, and you're going to need a more warlike mind, not way far in the future, but in the next 40 to 50 years.
Yes.
You see, 50 years ago, I was getting out of college. Wow. So to me, I have that perspective. From where I am right now to when I got out of college, and other people's lives is going to be like that when things are going to really be rough.
Yes.
And that's here you are trying to screw everybody around so they aren't ready or able to handle it.
That's criminal, Judge. That is criminal.
You know, it's like Rome ruled the world at one time. They had 180 million people in the Roman Empire. It hit its height when one of the emperors declared that all freeborn persons or all free persons in the Roman Empire were Roman citizens entitled to rights of jury trial, representation by lawyers, and appeal to higher tribunals, and if it all else failed, by appeal to the mob.
Wow.
You know, and you had rights they could not transgress upon.
That's a republic idea.
That being the case, what happened? Well, they went decadent, just like we're doing right here.
Yep.
Great Britain once had the world's largest empire. The sun never set on the British Empire. And that was 100 years ago. It went downhill because they got a fit, just like we are now.
Right. Too many people want to, Judge, I don't want to go out into the field and rough it. I'd rather stay here and enjoy the good meat and the wine and the women. You know, you go out and you do that. You know, but there's few.
What do you mean enjoy the women?
Well.
Remember, they got knee pads built into their jeans now. And I ain't talking about the babes.
Dude, this is disgusting because it's real. This is what's really going on right now in some congressional office. There's a young male aide doing things that's absolutely shameful, literally right now. But we're not going to talk about it because that's hate speech or that's bad to point out this decadence that's going to ultimately consume this nation and destroy it. That's criminal.
Yeah. Anyway, man, I got to get off, so let me roll.
All right, Judge.
Yeah, that's my comment on whether we should be worried about the Trump administration's judicial appointments. It's a little convoluted, but basically the public needs to keep in mind that there's been a 180-degree paradigm shift. The left is now advocating suppression of the Bill of Rights, and the right wing is in the unusual position of having to defend it. So I think we have more danger facing us from leftist appointed judges than we do from the far right.
Gotcha. And that's
except in the issue of such things as abortion.
Yeah, but one issue cannot mute the totality of the issue. The totality is the erosion of our collective rights and privileges that the United States, the Republic, was founded upon, not this nonsense democracy. Because on this show, democracy is two racist white guys and one black guy voting on who does the shit work.
Yeah. Now, here's one other thing, too. The right wing is beginning to get very worked up about prison reform because so many of them are getting, the way they look at it, getting jacked up and sent to jail for BS. And they are taking what used to be the left's position when it comes to prison reform. Remember, it's not Obama that came up with it. It's Trump that came up with it.
Yep.
You see?
Yes.
So just keep that in mind. Even though I think this Johnson woman was a drug queenpin, and I had first-degree murder cases where she set up the hit, according to the testimony.
Oh, man.
They at least are doing that kind of thing, whereas Obama didn't do a damn thing when he was in there.
Well, he was rather impotent when it came to civil, upholding civil rights and statutes. You know, but he was all about the homosexuals, though, Judge. He was all about the gays.
Yeah, he was all about homosexuals because, as quite a number of people have said who went to school with him, that's what he was into.
Wow.
The other thing is you have to understand this. His adopted father, who apparently adopted him before he got to be 2 years old, did guess what? He ran the death squad for the Indonesian government. So he was running their equivalent of the Gestapo. He was killing people.
Right.
That's why they called him the Drone Ranger.
And guess
he was in the business of killing people by drone. That's Obama.
But his
so
father
was a right winger when it came to that. Classical right wing totalitarian. We can't change them. Let's kill them.
Oh, but his daddy made a lot of money in that practice to afford a beautiful home.
His daddy was an oil tycoon because before he got into his own business, he was also international executive vice president for Standard Oil.
Wow.
So Standard Oil wanted to get into the Indonesian oil reserves, so they propped up Daddy Sotoro, so he became an all-powerful oil baron, controlling what may still be the world's largest oil reserve sitting under Indonesia.
Because you heard what Trump said. I like oil. You know, he's an oil guy on something. Whether he was a hotel guy before, but now he's an oil guy. So we have to understand that this oil thing is contributing to global warming, it's contributing to social injustice, and it's ultimately contributing to those who would take our personal rights and freedoms away.
Well, look at this. Business Insider reported that for 2017, Barack Obama reported a net income after taxes and expenses of over $200 million.
Wow.
Now, that's from somebody that nominally had a civil service job. And then they reported, guess what? For 2018, his reported net income was $370 million more than that. Trump doesn't even report that because he's got sense enough to take all these deductions.
Right. To make it look like he's not doing anything.
Now, the point is Obama gets this from his Indonesian trust fund that Daddy Sotoro set up for him. And most of that income comes from oil. So who was really pushing oil? Somebody with a $570 million reported net income, mostly derived from oil, or Trump, who has still got personal income coming in from his construction business.
That's what this is why Obama was not going to end the war in Iraq, because of oil. Because it's like he can have it both ways, Judge. Oh, I'm Obama. I'm just a poor little graduate guy, and I got to pay back my student loans just like you. Ooh. And then on the other hand,
he's lying.
Yes.
He's lying. Because what he initially said years ago was the only loans he had were for a new car loan that his daddy insisted that he get so he could learn what it was like having to pay something back.
Wow.
And Daddy, see, look, his stepfather, adopted dad, was one of the 10 to 15 richest men on earth when he died.
His mom moved up, didn't she? She moved up from a kid to the 15th richest man in the world. Talk about golden pussy.
See, and he left everything to a trust fund with 3 equal beneficiaries. Obama's 2 half siblings and an Obama. And one of the siblings has died, so that person's children split 1/3. So he gets 1/3 income from a trust fund set up where one of the richest men on earth left everything to put up in there. And it's not subject to American law because it's in Indonesia.
Wow. You know, this is what I'm saying.
See, it's a game.
Yes.
And you have to understand something, too. Back to Afghanistan. Why didn't he get us out of there like he promised? Well, when you see George W. giving candy to Michelle and she giggles?
Yep.
You know what the inside story is on that?
What's that, Judge?
The backstory? George W. used to give the same kind of candy to her husband when he was a kid because the Bushes and the Sotoros are long-term family friends. Mm-hmm. And the Bushes connection is George Herbert Walker Bush was named after Uncle Herbie, whose name was George Herbert Walker. The last Bush is George Walker Bush. And guess what George Herbert Walker is responsible for?
What?
He incorporated Halliburton in 1946. So Halliburton is part of the Bush Walker family empire.
Yes.
And in Afghanistan, May 2001, on his executive order, George W. Bush gave the Taliban $45 million in military aid on his signature. That was as a bribe so they would let Halliburton, the family enterprise, get pipeline rights. Well, they didn't. The whole thing about weapons of mass destruction was so that Halliburton could get the contract to exploit Iraqi oil after Hussein signed the contract with the Russians and the French to allow them to do it. And now, after 2007, Halliburton got the right without a bid to exploit Iraqi oil. And the last I checked, which is admittedly 8 or 9 years ago, Halliburton was bringing in $2.7 million net, $2.3 million net every 7 hours.
Wow. You see, now don't you see why we're having a yellow vest problem in France? Because those people who were calculating France's economy probably had planned on taking that oil down there. And since they didn't get it, Halliburton did. That adversely affected the economy. This thing ripples out, Judge. It ripples out like a pebble.
Of course it does. And the media doesn't cover it because these damn bozos are so deep off into trying to entertain so they can keep up ratings and do what they're expected, where they got this LGBTQ Skittles rainbow shit is the main topic.
But see, this is all a part of if you look at it in totality, it's all about degrading the society before you crush it. You have to degrade it. And they're totally doing it, like you said, with the okay, Johnny, it's okay. You don't need to go to war, but war is bad. You know, you don't want to defend yourself. You know, the enemy is really kind and he's gracious. He would tenderly put you to sleep every night and all this garbage. When in reality, the United States, the concept of the republic, not the democracy, the republic is the true light of the world. It's the true hope for one to obtain individual liberation and freedom.
By the way, it never was supposed to be a democracy. It was supposed to be a democratic republic.
Could you explain the difference to the uninitiated?
Well, here's the difference. In a democracy, it's like you've got a referendum on the ballot. Should the state adopt the rule that so on and so forth is to happen? You can't have that because it gets unwieldy, and they also built in protections because they said the average person is too ignorant, too unlearned, and too unconcerned to really deal with being in charge of governance. So you allow them to select their leaders, 2 classes. People who sit in the House of Representatives, which correspond to the Roman House of Plebes, and electors who can select the chief executive. The senators were appointed by state governors with the consent of state legislative bodies, all right?
Right.
The president is selected by the board of electors. So they modified that so senators can be elected by popular election. But they don't want everybody involved in this whole thing directly because, quite frankly, they're too unlearned and too unconcerned.
Ignorant. They're ignorant.
Anyway, man, I got to get off. I got to make some calls here.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, cool. Have a good one.
All right. Wow. Everything's just blowing up. This is so true. Sister Kathy, you're gonna have to come on the show. That enough is enough. You're gonna have to call in on the next live, and you're gonna have to start sharing some of this information. Sister Kathy is a wealth of information, and it's time for her to start sharing. Damn it! Instead of sitting over there in the fonts, you're gonna have to start talking. But this is going to conclude TPIM SR Live for today. Today's date, November 8th, 2019, the year of our Lord. I want to thank the Most High. Also, want to give out an announcement. Yesterday was Brother Abdullah's birthday. Happy belated birthday from the show and everybody, Brother Abdullah. I just want to thank you, chatters, brothers and sisters over there, sharing the videos, sharing your comments and your thoughts with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, y'all, live your life with integrity, without hate, envy, or greed. Brothers and sisters, I sincerely ask you, let's be kinder to each other. Peace and power, unity and victory, dignity and respect, liberation. I'm out. Yes, hit the like button and support the show on Patreon if you can. I'm out.